All right, welcome to The Fight with Teddy Atlas, presented by Dynamic Striking. I'm Ken Rideout, joined as always by the voice of all combat sports, the legend, Teddy Atlas, Mr. Worldwide, just back from the Middle East. How was it, Teddy?
Yeah, it was a fabulous event. You know, I hope I can carry this show with you. 24 hours straight of traveling from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. I'm blessed with my son that I have this privilege, this opportunity. But from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, through Egypt to here with the layovers, everything else, 24 hours. I took a shower so I could not smell, and I could also wake up a little bit. We weren't getting much sleep in Saudi Arabia, doing a lot of things, having dinner with His Excellency, late night. Everything is late over there. Late night, press conferences, late night, auction. They did a marvelous auction for Make-A-Wish. They're good people. They're good people. Frank Warren's a good person. You know, you get a different perspective when you see people in a different light. But all of them, Eddie Hearn, all of them, Tyson Fury, all his people, Usyk, they were all part of the auction, raising money for Make-A-Wish for terminally ill children so they can get their wish granted around the world. And we were there. Like I said, we were at the press con. We were at a public workout a few nights before the fight. And the night of the fight, as tired as we were feeling, you didn't need the Arabian coffee. You know, they have strong coffee over there. They have Turkish coffee. They have the traditional Arabian coffee. You didn't need it. All you needed was to be part of that electric environment. It's everything, you know, sometimes over here you have a Super Bowl and all the hype, all the hoopla, you know, everything to build it up. And you hope that it lives up to it, right? You hope it halfway lives up to it. And sometimes it's a flop. Sometimes it lives up to it. You get a great Super Bowl, goes down to the last seconds, you know, goes into overtime. It goes into where the guy's on the 1 yard line, you know, with seconds to go. And you're up in the air, what's going to happen? Sometimes it comes down to, a pass at the last second, 50 yards away as the clock goes out. Is it going to be caught for a touchdown, or is the other team going to deflect it and they're going to win? This Super Bowl lived up to that because it's the Super Bowl of boxing, you know, and it goes beyond the Super Bowl because this sport goes back further than any other sport. I mean, this sport goes back to where archaeologists have found dwellings on caves over 2,000 years old of people fighting in striking poses and fighting poses, you know, so the significance of this, the history that was attached to this. First unified heavyweight title fight in 25 years. You know, the original fight of the century, Ali and Frazier. First time two heavyweights undefeated got in the ring and shared the ring together. You had that too. You had that part of history. You had two undefeated heavyweights fighting for the unified title, first time in 25 years. And you also had something else floating around in the air. A chance to answer, Ken, the age-old question in this age-old sport. Who wins between the good big man and the good little man? You had a chance to answer that, to take a close-up shot of that. You had everything there. And the most important thing, you gave the fans what they wanted. Because they're the people, you know, any business, there's a CEO. You know, boxing doesn't have that national commission like Goodell is the head commission of football, right? You don't have that in boxing. Unfortunately, you know, you have too many different powers that go different ways, and they go the way that makes sense for them to go. And that's where you get the conflicts for the sport. That's where you get problems for the sport. But the ultimate boss of this sport, it doesn't have a boss. Its real boss is the fans. The fans. And when the fans aren't satisfied, when the CEO's not satisfied, he closed down operation. When the fans aren't satisfied, they can close operations down. They don't have to buy pay-per-view anymore. They can close it down. They forget that sometimes, but they can close it down. The fans got what they wanted. But the sport got what it needed. This made the sport healthier. The sport needed this. The sport in the last few years has starting to move towards the less relative side, which kills me. 50 years kills me being in this business my whole life. To see that, the greatest sport in the world, where two men find out things they never knew about themselves, and where people watching can share that. They can witness that, and they can start to wonder, can I find out something about myself too? Just vicariously living through them right now, watching these men go to places that they've never been before. Can I do that tomorrow? Can I do that in my future? Is there more for me? Is there a further place for me too? I mean, it gave you everything it needed to. Again, the sport has become less relative the last several years. Why? Because you weren't giving the boss, the fans, what they wanted. The best fighting the best. And then a man from the Middle East named Turki Al-Sheikh, His Excellency, came along and he started giving us fights that we weren't going to get. We just weren't going to get because there were separate promoters. Because they control their piece of the land. The other promoter controls their piece of the land. And on their piece of land is a certain fighter. On the other guy's piece of land is a certain fight. And they ain't getting together. They ain't getting together unless somebody comes along with the resources, the extraordinary resources, and the passion, and the desire to do it. And Turki Al-Sheikh came along. And now we're getting fight. And then to put it all together, the boxing people would always tell you, the old-timers, Customato, would always tell me, Teddy, boxing is only as healthy as the heavyweight division. The heavyweight division always leads the way. They are always the torch that lights the way. And you have to have one guy. You can't be going down the street and asking who's the heavyweight champ, and guys don't know because there's so many names floating out there. You know, one guy is saying, well, I think it's this guy, but oh no, I think it might be this guy. You have to go back to where there's one name to make this sport as healthy as possible. If you can name the heavyweight champ, that alone is bringing the sport back to as healthy a place as it can be. That alone, back to the days when you could say, yeah, Joe Louis, yeah, Rocky Marciano, yeah, Jack Dempsey, yeah, Jack Johnson, yeah, Muhammad Ali, yeah, Mike Tyson, yeah, George Foreman, yeah, Joe Frazier. You could say that. We finally got it together where you can say that now. You can say one night, one name, Oleksandr Usyk. And then and so many story plots. Hollywood could not have scripted this better. Could not have with all of the back and forth, the drama. You know, one guy looks like he's in charge of the fight, looks like he's going to win it, maybe even handily, and then all of a sudden it changes. All of a sudden a thunderbolt from the sky, and all of a sudden Usyk now looks like he's going to knock out Fury. And then what happens? Fury somehow again finds a way to survive, finds a way to come back. And not only survives, and I'll get into specifically, but not only survives, give him more credit than that. He not only survived, and I know that the thing with the referee might have gave him a little extra time. And look, if it's not for the heavyweight unified title and it's not Tyson Fury standing, the referee stops it. I'm going to say that right now because I don't sit in the middle of the fence because that's a tough one. People say, well, blah, blah, blah. No, it's not that tough. He stops it. He's gone. That gets stopped if it's not for the significance that it was for with those two fighters. That fight gets stopped. But by not getting stopped, it made the night even greater. It made the night even greater because then you give Fury a chance to do what he does, to come back, to survive, to come back. And the thing that I applaud Fury for is not only his resiliency, not only his extraordinary recovery ability. You know, remind me a little bit of Arturo Gatti, the way he used to recover after getting battered sometimes, and he would recover right in front of your eyes, you know. And, of course, there's the special ones like Muhammad Ali that could recover from punches from Ernie Shavers and right hands on the chin from him and stuff like that. But I'm just talking about how Fury not only recovered, but the 10th round, he spent that round surviving. By the end of it, he was actually doing something more. But the first 3/4 of it, he was surviving. He was continuing to recuperate from that disastrous ninth round, from that ninth round where he was basically he was at the gates of hell. He was at the gates of hell. He dragged himself from the gates of hell with fire still burning at his feet. They were still putting flames out when they got him back to the corner. I mean, that's the only way I could describe it. And then he goes out there in the 10th round, and he survives the round. He doesn't win the round, but he survives, and then he starts doing something towards the end. But here's the thing that makes it even more extraordinary. In the 11th and 10th round, he goes out to win those rounds. And they're close rounds. They're close rounds. Those rounds are close. I think Fury, I think that Usyk won the 11th. The 12th round, I think I judged it even. But for him to come back from that punishment, and again, it'd be extraordinary enough to survive and then just, last it out. But no, he did what he does. He went out there and tried to win it. And that's what makes him special, as well as Usyk. Both men are special. I don't care about the silly things that was said. I'm going by what they did. Forget about words. Forget about afterwards some of the things that Fury said in a post-fight press conference you could pick apart and all that. I'm talking about how he performed. I'm talking about the way he talked by his actions, by the way he behaved. Like I talk about, it's not enough to fight like a champ. You got to behave like one. When it came time to behaving that way, he behaved that way. But you got what you needed to get. The doctor was in the house. The doctor got the medicine to the patient being boxing, that it needed to survive, to more than survive, to flourish, to get color in its cheeks, to get the blood pumping again. You needed this kind of, you didn't need just a unification. That's great, but you needed it to be a special fight. And it became an epic, special, classic, instant classic overnight. And I don't know, some of the things I don't love is like when you have an automatic rematch. I tell you why I don't love that. You're going to get it anyway if it's a good fight. You're going to get it anyway.
Exactly.
It puts out a certain I don't know if it's a signal or a representation or just a look. Sometimes just a look. It puts out a look like, you're already setting up. This is supposed to be for all the marbles, boys and girls, right? All the marbles, So you're not supposed to say, oh, this is for some of the marbles, and then you're going to do it again for all the marbles. Yeah. No. There's it's one or the other. You can't be a little pregnant in life. With things like this, again, it gives a look like, oh, well, they're setting up, then the people's minds start playing games with them because you can't help them but be sitting there going this sport that has disappointed you so many times with judging and with biases, with, the truth is the truth. You can't blame people who start saying, oh, they already got it set up, so one guy's going to win, then the next guy will win. Just leave it alone. You don't have to do that because it's going to happen, and this would have happened. And look, it deserves the rematch now. But again, when you do that ahead of time, it just gives off it just don't smell right. Like people start questioning, like I said, and you can't say this is for everything, and then you say, okay, well the next one is actually for everything again. So anyway. Great. As far as the fight, I made a scorecard, And I just wanted...
Teddy, before you get into the fight, let me just say, I know you've been traveling 24 hours, so I'm assuming you took your Athletic Greens today. AthleticGreens.com, the all-in-one green drink. Anytime you're traveling, especially when you're traveling, you should be using AG1 to make sure you're getting all your nutrients, vitamins, and minerals. Go to athleticgreens.com/Atlas to take advantage of the 10 free travel packs with your first purchase. Again, athleticgreens.com/Atlas to take advantage of the offer. Athletic Greens is the all-in-one green drink made from 75 whole food source ingredients. Consider it insurance policy for your body's health and immunity. And one more thing, Teddy, while I've got you here, for the listeners, if you like listening to Teddy and you want to learn more about his backstory and how he got started in the sport, check out his book, Atlas, From the Streets to the Ring, A Son's Struggle to Become a Man, available at audible.com as well as Amazon in paperback. Teddy's also got a boxing apparel collection with Box Raw. You can check it out at boxraw.com. Check out the 36 collection, 36 minutes to make life fair. And if you're in New York in November, the Thursday before Thanksgiving, please come to the Dr. Atlas Foundation dinner. Meet Teddy, meet a bunch of the fighters. Rob and I will be there as well. Go to the Dr. Atlas Foundation, search Dr. Atlas Foundation. You can find out all the information you're looking for. Teddy also has another show called Pro Box that airs on, I believe, Wednesdays.
Yeah, we do it on Tuesdays.
I think it comes out on Wednesdays with the great Paulie Malignaggi and Chris Algieri, two of the best in the business when it comes to individuals and humans. Really nice guys. And you can also check out Teddy's boxing tutorial videos at dynamicstriking.com. Search the Teddy Atlas collection, and there's a series of videos there that teach all the fundamentals of boxing. You can learn in the comfort of your own home. All right, Teddy, let's get into the fight. What a hell of a fight.
Listen, a lot of close rounds. You could have had a couple even rounds. I was wrestling not to have an even round. Believe it or not, I wound up in the 12th round making it even because it was that I was going to go towards Usyk. I wound up making it an even round. The first two rounds, here's what it looks like, and I'm gonna also read you my comments in between the rounds. Every once in a while I made a comment. The first two rounds, 10-9 to Usyk. And the third round, Fury. And then Fury takes 4 straight rounds for me. He got control of the rhythm. He going into the fight, I picked Usyk, but I said that this was a fight where you could make an argument for either side, a legitimate argument for either side to win. And when you have that, you're usually going to have a good fight, where you could make a real honest argument that will hold water, that either guy should be able to pull it off. That's what we had. As far as the tangibles and the styles, the numbers of the fight, if you will, the mechanics of the fight, going in, first of all, if you watched our fight plan, and I think a lot of people did, but if you watched our fight plan, we were pretty damn good. We were pretty damn good with it. Because the obvious was the obvious. Fury had a couple options, how to fight. He could fight on the outside with his size, or he could fight inside imposing his side. If he wanted to try to wear him down, walk him down. I thought that he should fight on the outside, and he did, for the most part. He controlled the jab, used the jab, and that was another thing. It was going to come down to the jab on both sides. It was going to come down to, on the Fury side, can he control geography, range, space with that jab? Can he control space with that jab? Make it difficult. Put the burden on Usyk to take risks, to come forward, to do what he can do. And he was doing that. And for Usyk, it was going to come down to make sure you're not dominated by his jab. Make sure that jab does not control you. Find a way to nullify it. Find a way to negate it. You don't have to out-jab him. You don't have to outland him with the jab. But you can't get dominated by his freaking jab. You can't wind up in the locker room. I must have gave 400 million interviews out there. And each one of them I said, sometimes you got to know what, you try to know what to do. But we don't know what to do all the time. You got to know what not to do. Not just what to do, what not to do. You cannot be a Fury person and part of that team and be in the locker room after the fight saying we shouldn't have got dominated by that jab. That can't happen. If you get beat, you get beat. But you can't get beat because of that punch. You have to find a way not to be dominated with that punch. So the thing I consistently said before this fight, it will come down to jabs and geography, where Fury will try to control the outside with his jab, make it hard. As I've often said when I was doing all the commentating on ESPN, make it hard to make this shorter man go through a bad neighborhood and then try to mug him on the way in. And that's what Fury was doing. But let me put a little, let me qualify that. I've never done this with that saying before, but I'm going to add something, Ken, to that saying. Yeah, you're the taller guy, control the outside, make the smaller guy go through a bad neighborhood and mug him. But there's certain guys that ain't getting mugged no matter what neighborhood they're in. They just ain't getting mugged. You try to mug them, they're going to do it to you. You ever see Crocodile Dundee with a guy in the subway? Where the guy in the subway like pulls a knife on him and says, yo, give me your money, whatever. It's many years ago. And Dundee looks at him. He says, that's not a knife. Here, bloke, this is a knife. And he pulls out like a machete. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's kind of what happens if you try to mug the wrong guy. And Usyk ain't getting mugged. But it was the plan was right. The plan was right for Fury. Control the outside, put the emphasis on, put the onus on, put the burden on Usyk to take risks to get in and try to make him pay to get in. Usyk, his strengths, combination punching, hand speed, technique, solid, southpaw, counterpuncher, all of that. But it's hard to do that if you're not in range. How are you going to put punches together if you're not in range? How are you going to counterpunch if the guy gives you nothing to counter? It's hard to do all that. So both guys had to be very definitive about how they approached this fight to give themselves edges. What did I say? What have you heard me say, Ken, throughout this whole process, leading up to this fight? When the fight was first made, I said, look, you can break down all the strengths and weaknesses on a paper. Write them all down. Write them all down, all you want. The strengths of Fury being big, using the jab, controlling the outside, the Usyk being able to counterpunch, being able to have hand speed, he puts punches together well, all of that stuff. But there's one thing that can't be measured in a tangible way, and that was the reason I picked Usyk. He finds a way to win. He's one of the greatest winners you're ever going to see. He's one of the greatest winners you're ever going to see. And Fury's great. Fury's a winner in life. He was ready. This is a man who got so down he was going to commit suicide, and he decided to come back. He came back to live. And I'm glad he did. I'm glad he did. Because of nights like that, but more than that, because I think great fighters are teachers. They teach us something by their behavior in a very difficult place. And he taught us, never give up on yourself. It's never too late. It's never too late. It's only too late when you actually do the ultimate worst thing you can do and give up on your life. Otherwise, there's always tomorrow. You can always turn it around. Never, ever, ever turn a light off on yourself. Never, ever give up the greatest, most precious gift that God has ever given us, the gift of life. Never do that, no matter how down you are. And he taught that. The same way George Foreman taught people at 45 years old that it's not a death sentence being 45. You don't have to shut the light out on your dreams, that you can still do. You still could go to college. You still could become a lawyer. You still could go. Yeah, you still got. You could still be heavyweight champ at 45. Yeah, you can still do a lot of damn things. You could do a lot of damn things. It's not over. Foreman was the great teacher of that, the great symbol, the poster child of that. And Fury is the poster child of never giving up on life. And I saw another side of him. I saw a side where I told you they were, I didn't tell you specifically who was bidding, but him and Frank Warren were two of the people that were bidding at the Make-A-Wish. And they were bidding very big money. Yeah, I know they got money. I get it. But that don't mean that they have to go and give it away. They were bidding on things for this obviously very important foundation, very worthy foundation. And I got a different perspective on Fury. Yeah, all the talk and all the stuff that the window dressing you see, in the window. But I got a chance to see what's in the warehouse. Not just the fighting part, not just the promotional part. And I saw with all the stuff that had happened, with the weigh-in, with the shoving, with everything, all the stuff going on, right? I saw at the auction, one side of the room, Usyk, the other side of the room, and I want to share this with the people because you don't get to hear this or see this. You only see what you see. And you make sometimes an assumption off of just that, which sometimes can be wrong. The other side is Fury. And all of a sudden, after everything that happened, Fury's two sons, really fine young men, get up, walk across to Usyk and ask if they could please take a picture with him. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. Nobody, you didn't hear about this in the media, but you're going to hear about it here because I think it's worth saying. To me, that told me what Fury really was. He raised those kids. Those kids didn't just pop up and become, they looked like they were about 14, 15, whatever. But they didn't just, no, he raised them. He taught them those things. Yeah, his wife did too, of course. But he's part of that. And to me, that was him. That spoke to what he is. That he's a guy that was able to have enough, just care enough about the right things to raise those kids the right way. So no matter what he says, and he says some wild stuff, no matter what, that is how I judged him. By what he does in the ring, but the way he lives his life represented by his children, his family. And I'll tell you another thing. All his family around us at ringside during the fight, his brothers, he's got a huge family, cousins, everybody else, Spencer Brown, his manager, James, all the people that work to make these events happen too. But the other brothers and everyone who just come for the fight to obviously support their brother, their cousin, their relative, their loved one. Every one of them was a class act. I know that it's the crazy Fury family. I get it. You could definitely make a reality show that would do pretty big numbers, pretty big, kind of like the Duck Dynasty or something, right? Yeah, you definitely could do that. But let me tell you, again, when you get away from all the smoke, you get away, when you get behind the curtain a little bit, you see what is really there. And they were all classy people. They all conducted themselves with class. So, anyway, the fight, the most important thing I kept touting to everybody was, look, we could look at all the measurables. In football, my son, the great scout in football, 14 years in the NFL, they look at the measurables. How fast? How far does he jump? How big is his hands? Especially if he's a receiver. All of these things, the measurables. But like my son always said, you can't measure certain things can't be measured by those measurables. certain things you just can't find in film. You just can't find, in a doctor's office with a measuring stick, with a watch. You just can't. Those are the intangible things that make people special. The will to win, the instincts. Like in football, the instincts to always be around the football. You see certain guys, they're smaller than everyone else. They're not as fast. They don't jump as high. They're not as big. But every time there's a loose ball, who's on it? Them. That's not an accident. How are they always around the ball at the right time? How are they always there? Just instinctual things that, again, you can't measure in the way we like to measure things. Well, that's why I picked Usyk. The thing that you can't measure in those ways that we feel comfortable measuring things and saying, oh yeah, I could be sure of that. He finds a way and always has found a way to win. I picked him for that one reason. Yeah, other reasons too, but he was going to find a way to win. He's done it since he's a teenager. He's done it since the Olympics when he won the gold medal. Then he went pro. Then he won a cruiserweight. Then he unified all the cruiserweight titles. Then he went up to heavyweight and beat a real good English heavyweight named Joshua in his country and beat him. And then to show it wasn't a fluke, he did it again. He knows how to find, and he does it under whatever pressures, just like all greats do. But he does it under whatever pressures he has, the pressure of his country being stolen from him and his people, being ripped away from him and his people. He's done it under that pressure too. So at the end of the day, when that 9th round came around, I had turned to my son. I think it was the 7th round. And Fury had taken control of the rhythm of the fight. He was in charge of the fight. Like I said, I had the first 2 rounds for Usyk, and then I had the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th round for Fury. And then the 7th round, it started to change. And around that round, I said to my son, you know that ability I've been talking about all week, about finding a way to win, that ability that can't be charted the way others are charted? Well, it's about time it shows up. And he wins the 7th. He wins the 8th, the historic 9th. He wins that. And again, the physical breakdown. Fury on the outside. Usyk has to find a way not to be dominated by the jab. He found that. He used his own jab to southpaw. He didn't land with it, but he just kept Fury busy enough with it. But his plan was to keep unrelentless pressure. And you hear me say, pressure breaks pipes. Pressure evaporates people. How many times have I used the analogy in a hot summer night, a hot summer day, where people, that old saying, where you could cook an egg on the sidewalk. It's so hot. It's so hot. And you got a little bit of water on the street. A little puddle, and you look away for 10 minutes. 10 minutes later, you look, it's gone. Where'd it go? Somebody didn't mop it up. It got evaporated. Pressure evaporates people.
Did you notice that not only did he keep the pressure, but he kept stepping to the outside of Fury's left foot? It seemed like he had Fury off balance. Well,
that's how you move. No, but that's where, if you're southpaw, you move to your right, away from the power hand, the right hand of the orthodox fighter. Now, if you're an orthodox fighter, it's part of being a winner. If you're off balance. Not only he negated his power, where he wasn't going to get hit by his power punch with the right hand. Now, if you're the orthodox fighter fighting a southpaw, then you want to move to your left, away from the left hand. The power hand. Fury didn't do that enough because he got hit with the power hand, the left hand, which would ultimately be the right hand for an orthodox fighter. His backhand, the hand that you turn your back into, that you could pivot your leg into, that you get all the power in. But in the analysis of the fight, in a fight plan we did, and me setting up the fight, the pre-analysis to the pre-fight analysis of the fight, One of the tangible strengths, obviously, of Usyk was he can counterpunch. He puts punches together really well, and he's a guy that turns defense into offense. He can make you miss. He's got a good defense. He makes you miss. He can make you pay. But he had to get the right geography to do that. Otherwise, he's shadow boxing. Otherwise, he's not close enough to this giant to touch him. When you do all those things, his plan was to try to make the bigger man smaller. And I don't mean small in a way that he makes him bend down. I mean where he takes away, he evaporates some of him. Where he evaporates some of his, just slows him down. Just starts to physically evaporate him, to the extent that he can. And that relentless pressure. We talked about the body, that Fury should go to the body. I kept saying, listen, you don't see too many guys 6'9", good body punches. It's hard when you're that tall, you're that long to go to the body. Who do you know that big that goes to the body? Nobody. But I knew he was athletic enough. I seen him go to the body, but I knew, not in a consistent manner, but I knew that he could do it because he's athletic and he's smart. That he would have to, I even said on our show, he would be irresponsible. His people would be irresponsible if they didn't have part of their fight plan dedicated to going to Usyk's body. After he got hurt with Dubois, he got hurt with Joshua, they'd be irresponsible if they didn't go have something set up for the body. And they did. Credit to them. They did. And they went to the body, and they affected him a little bit to the body. But he made an adjustment. Being great is about making adjustments. Look at the team that used to be your team, the New England Patriots. I know you gave up on them now, but the team that used to be the New England Patriots, when they had Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, what was that comeback against the Atlanta Falcons where they go into the locker room? 28-3, the biggest comeback in the history of the Super Bowl. They're losing 28-3. What do? They go back. Their will showed, their will showed, their character showed, no doubt about it. Tom Brady said, we're winning this game. The leader stepped up, we're winning this game. And we're going to make history by winning this game. That's what leaders do. That's what leaders say at the right time. But Belichick made adjustments, and they came out, and the mistakes they were making in the first half, they weren't making. They made those adjustments. Usyk made subtle adjustments. He started blocking with his elbows. His arms went better. He started blocking those body shots better. He started stepping out at the right time better, where he wasn't a target for those body shots. So he made those adjustments. All of that. One of the advantages to Usyk that we touched on in the fight plan, and I said it the night of the fight when I was being interviewed, I said, we're talking about the outside, we're talking about the jab, we're talking about, the range and all that, which is going to be really tantamount here. It's going to be so important. But there's an edge that Usyk has in the physical domains, in the technical domains. And he has that edge that you don't normally think about in this fight with a bigger guy. You know why? The bigger guy is 40 pounds bigger. So you don't think about the smaller guy wanting to engage him in close. You don't think of that. But I remember making a point. You better think about it. Because to me, that's one of his big advantages. He is a better inside fighter than Fury. Fury has never learned how to fight inside. Yeah, he'll chuck a shot at you. He'll chuck an uppercut at you. And then he'll grab you. Because he makes his living, for the most part, on the outside. He's never formally learned how to really fight on the inside in any kind of consistent manner or even safe manner. He's got flaws to his game on the inside. Usyk knows how to fight on the inside. He knows how to, in a conventional, in a solid, technically buttoned up way, he knows how. And look, he's got an advantage with the shorter arms, just like Tyson did on the inside. But you still got to know how to fight on the inside. I felt Usyk would not only have that edge, he should look to exploit that edge. and there's a flaw in Tyson. We talked about that too. He'll chuck at you a little bit, and then what does he do on the inside? He grabs you. He ties you up. Matter of fact, there's some people that say he didn't do it enough and put his weight on him and wear him down. Okay, you can make an argument that he should have tied him up more, he should have warmed down. But for me, I was looking at where he leaves himself available. Where when he looks to tie you up, he goes and he goes to reach for you, like an octopus. He goes out to reach for you. In that half a second time period where he goes like this to reach to tie you up, he exposes himself. He leaves himself vulnerable. You can hit him. If you're not intimidated, if you don't just say, oh, I better just cover up and I better just let him do this, or you're not thinking clearly in a difficult area. See, the great ones think clear in an unclear area. They think calm in an uncalm environment. That's the difference. And if you're not of that level, then when the guy goes to tie you up, you're just going to be glad he's tying you up, because you know why? You're making a silent agreement that if he don't hit me, I won't hit him. And you're glad you're getting a reprieve. You're glad the flag is showing at Indy 500 to bring you into the pit row. You're glad. Oh, God, thank God I'm getting into pit row. I'm tired of driving 200 miles an hour out here. I need a break. So, but the top ones don't do that. Because that's why I always say it's 75% mental in life, in anything, in the courtroom, in the doctor operating room, in a teacher's classroom, wherever it is, 75% of it is mental. Who keeps themselves together in those moments? So there's a flaw in Fury where he goes to grab you and you can catch him. You can even take a half step back if you want and make him really reach and catch him with shots. When you do that, the moment that came, it was a combination of the relentless pressure. His fight plan came to fruition. He found a way to win. He kept the pressure from the first round. He kept the pressure. And he was going to the body nice too. Kept the pressure. And like I said, when you keep the pressure, when the sun keeps beating down in the middle of the summer, that puddle starts disappearing. This big man, I'm not saying you saw him just disappear, but there was something happening. And I noticed it. You know what was happening? He was getting closer. By that pressure and that body shots, he was inching in a little closer. And now all of a sudden, those talents, those abilities I talked about earlier of putting punches together, having fast hands, being a counterpuncher, all of a sudden you're close enough to do it. You're close enough to show those. You couldn't show them early on. You couldn't show those abilities early on because Fury was on his game. He got the rhythm of the fight. He was on his game. He was controlling the outside. You couldn't show those. But Usyk never lost faith. He knew. He said, no, I will get to him. Matter of fact, he was prophetic. He said, when they said, I don't know if you guys watched the final, the weigh-in. And I'm there with my son at the weigh-in, and they're trying to get, they got shoving match, the whole thing. When it's over with, the commentators are trying to do their job. So they want to get a soundbite from both guys. So they turned to Fury. Fury said, Fury is the guy that's got the sound bites. He's an expert on that. That's fair. Usyk don't say much, but he's smart. What he does say carries a lot of meaning. But he don't talk much. You know that old saying, talk softly but walk with a big stick, whatever that
Correct.
Is. That's him. That's him. And when he says it, I'm telling you, you listen. You listen. And so they go to Fury, and Fury says kind of like his catchphrase thing. I'm gonna knock him spark out. But I think he added an F word before that. I'm gonna knock him. You know what I mean? The F spark out, right? So that's kind of his thing. All right. And then they go, now the guy wants to keep it going. The guy turns to Usyk, and the guy goes, what do you have to say? Usyk, real quick, very serious. He delays. They didn't think he was going to answer. He delays. Usyk, you have anything to say? I will not leave you alone. Oh, when he said that, I turned to my son. I said, you hear that? He goes, I will not leave you alone. He meant it. He meant it. He did not. And that was it. He kept on him. And again, you didn't see nothing. You saw little spots. Again, I had it 4 rounds to 2 after 6. You had Fury controlling the geography. You had him, but it was working. What was working was not tangible in a way that you saw punches thudding the guy's head back, but was tangible in a way that you saw the puddle getting smaller, ever so slightly smaller. He was getting ever so slightly closer. He had a good 8th round, and then the 9th round he got close. And when he got close, he had Fury up against the ropes, his hands low, and Fury does something that, again, he's not technically solid like Usyk is. He's very talented. He's almost a natural. He's a guy that does things. He's tremendously athletic. He's gifted. You know, he's never had a lot of formal training. I think his only training he might have had formally, or a lot of it, of course, he comes from a fighting family and from fighting lineage, fighting, a bloodline of fighters. But, and that's important. But formally, Ken, traditionally, as far as being taught, like really technical teachings, he's really never had a lot of that. Maybe Sugar Hill the last year and a half, maybe it's has been a lot of it, but he didn't have a huge amount. Usyk had 300 some amateur fights. Usyk technically is very solid. I think Fury's had about 35, 40, somewhere in that area. Not that many. But he's a big man who's very athletic. I mean, how many guys? He's like a dancing bear. I mean, how many guys do you see that size that could dance around, ballerina around, move around the way he does? He does a lot of things naturally. When you do that, you can also pick up bad habits. But you get away with it because you're bigger, you're faster, you're more athletic. You get away. And by the way, there's something that, when I say it, it's so simple. So simple. It's like remember that commercial? You hit yourself, you realize something. I should have had a V8. You remember that commercial? I should have had a V8. Like, why didn't I think of that? Just so basic sometimes. With certain things, but Fury's a guy that has, like I said, he's still a work in progress, which is extraordinary with all the fights he's got. But he's doing things, like I said, he does a lot of things right, but he'll make mistakes that a guy who's technically been taught in a more traditional sense, if you will, is not going to make. And part of that is he breaks one of what I think is one of the most important rules not to break. He gives up defense for offense. That's one thing I will not allow a fighter to give up. I'd say don't throw a punch. Do not throw a punch then. If you can't throw it without giving up defense, don't throw it. Just don't throw it. And as Usyk got close in that 9th round, he was working on from the very beginning to do that. Fury drops his hands like this, and he throws his punches. And I've said it a million times, when you're tall like that and you control the outside, it's a great advantage. It really is. You don't need Teddy Atlas to tell you that. But when you're tall and the other guy gets close and you're standing straight up, it suddenly is a disadvantage. Just like that. It's not an advantage anymore. And here he is, this big, giant target, right in front of him, and he drops his hands a little, and he's throwing these punches, and he's giving up defense for offense. He's right in front of Usyk, who's a better defensive fighter, who's got quicker hands, who puts punches together, don't just hit you. And that's another thing. Tyson Fury, as magnificent as he was throughout the night with different things, but where he got hurt at the end of the day, just like it paid off for Usyk to keep the pressure, even when it wasn't showing with punches, it was showing in other ways. It was getting to the guy where it was going to show up later. The same thing was happening in an opposite way on the other side of the corner with Fury. While he was setting the table with his jab, like I always say, after you set the table, what do you have to do, Ken? You have to eat. He was setting the table, but he wasn't eating enough. Yeah, right uppercut. Yeah, straight right hand once in a while. Not enough. He was leaving too much food on the table. And when you leave food on the table with a hungry freaking guy like Usyk, guess what? He's going to eat it. He's going to take that food. He ain't going to leave it on the table. You left it, shame on you. I'm eating your meal now. and that's part of what happened. He's setting the table all night long. And the uppercut should have been used more because when he used it, it was pretty effective. But he wasn't eating off of it. So here we are in the 9th round now. He's close. He finally got closer. And Fury gives up defense for offense. He drops his hands a little bit. He got caught before that with a left hand. Again, counterpunch, where he timed him. Counterpunch over the jab. Bang, he caught him. He started hitting him. He started finding him. Then he gets him up against the ropes where he already had him, where he wanted him. Where he was closer. He had hit him some shots before that. He didn't give up. He didn't stop. Where Fury hits you one, he might throw a jab in the right hand. This guy's throwing nice combinations, 3, 4 punches, educated punches, downstairs, upstairs. He's throwing them like that, Usyk. So here he is. He finally gets in closer. He throws a couple punches, gives up defense, got his hands down. Doesn't move after his last punch. One of my cardinal rules, you have to move after your last punch. You can't take a picture. Because if you take a picture, a flash bulb's going to go off. And guess what? It ain't going to be the flash bulb of a camera. It's going to be the flash bulb of your brain getting hit, a big shot, and you're going to see a flash. And he comes right back. He drops his hands, and what does Usyk do? Bang! I think he started with the right hook. Bang, bang! Catches him. And then the chase is on. Timber! He starts slanting a little bit, and Usyk said, this is it. He stayed on him, kept raining punches, stayed on him. He goes from one side of the ring to the other. He's basically hitting him from pillar to post. Extraordinary heart, extraordinary resiliency, extraordinary will, extraordinary character. The character that, again, you can't quantify that. You can't measure it. It's there or it's not there. And he's surviving. He's trying to survive. He's spinning all over the ring. And then finally, Usyk hits him the last shot. He goes flying back. He gets supported by the ropes. He was going to go down. And the referee steps in and saves him. But let me tell you something. He might have saved his life. See, this is something nobody's talking about. He came in, he was gone. I know he recovered after that, which is extraordinary. But he was gone. Gonzville. And part of the magnificence of Usyk, did you notice his legs were always under him? Even when he was chasing him, he wasn't flailing, he wasn't reaching, he wasn't out of position. His legs were always set. That's good technique. That's where it serves you. That's where it might serve you over a guy who's more talented, a guy who's more athletic, a guy who's more natural. Because the guy who's more natural, more athletic, he don't have to learn those things. He gets away with doing things wrong because he's got that kind of ability, that kind of instinct, that kind of timing, that kind of natural gifts. But the other guy that might not have, Usyk's not a guy who has one great ability in one area. He's great in all. He's solid, real good in all. There's no area that he's bad. He's real good in all. He's solid in all, but he's great in one area. He finds a way to win. He never shuts the lights off on himself. He finds a way to win. And when he was closing in for that last shot, Fury was gone. He hits him that last shot. He couldn't defend himself. He was like this. I mean, literally, he was gone. He couldn't defend himself. He was going to get hit full on force. And he was going down. And there's two things that saved him. The referee stepped in, and Usyk saved him. Look at the film, people. Usyk is a special man. He slowed down. He could have thrown that punch. 9 out of 10 people would have thrown that punch, and they would have got it in before the referee got there. They would have. He could have done that. He could have thrown that punch before the referee closed in, but he saw and he decided not to. And he slowed down. He didn't throw it. The referee got in there. Now, the referee could have stopped the fight. And I say what I said at the beginning. Any other fighter, he stops it. Anyone else, I don't care. Put him on a lie detector and ask him that question. I guarantee you, if he don't tell the truth, it's going to go, the line's going to move all over the place if he doesn't tell the truth, because he would have stopped it. But he did the right thing, it turned out, because we got to see the magnificence of men at their best. We got to see that. And we also got to see, well, first I'll finish up with the final part of it. So, first 2 rounds, Fury. Next 2 rounds, Usyk. Next 4 rounds, Fury. And then the 7th round, 10-9, Usyk. The 8th round, I made a comment here. Big round in the 6th round. Big round for Fury. He hurt Usyk with an uppercut. See, he didn't use it enough. That was the 6th round. Big round for Fury. That was the last round he won. That was the last round he won on my scorecard. Because then the 7th round, 10-9 for Usyk. And I wrote close round. Then the 8th round, 10-9 for Usyk. Big turning point. Big round for Usyk, big turning point. 9th round, 10-8. I don't have to say anything more. We talked about that. 10th round, 10-9 for Usyk. Fury was just basically trying to get himself back together. And obviously lost that round. 11th round, I thought Usyk started looking a little gassed, a little tired, but he still kept pushing. He started, and of course, Fury had been through what he'd been through. I gave it 10-9 for Usyk, the 11th. And then the 12th round, a very close round. I wound up making it 10-10. My final score, probably bigger than some people, maybe, 116, 112 for Usyk. I want to also say, they got it right. Okay, they did. They got it right. But it shouldn't have been a split decision. Usyk, that judge that had it the other way, again, that's still a problem. It's still a problem. It's crazy. And then can you imagine if they didn't get it right? Then you would have been saying that the referee saved him. That he wasn't given what he should have, what he earned, which was a knockout.
The fact that
victory.
one judge even scored it for Fury, to me, was insanity. I just didn't see it that way. I just can't see. I can't see how the guy got to that score.
Well, maybe that's the problem. You can't see.
It could be.
Yeah, really. I mean, that could be the biggest problem sometimes with this sport. But at the end of the day, how powerful can a man be when he's fighting for more than himself? We all know what Usyk, where he comes from, the Ukraine. He had to move his family to Spain, and for now, and he goes back there, of course, and it's a war-torn country, but he had to get his family out of there. But he goes back. He loves his country. And there's people in that country that are, they're fighting to try to save their country, right? Obviously, people are dying every day. They're losing everything that they worked their life for. Their families are being uprooted. Everything's being destroyed, burning around them. But yet, they're fighting for their existence. They're fighting for their country. They're fighting for the right to have a country, to have a home that was invaded, was just invaded, unprovoked. But not everybody can pick up a gun. There's women, there's older people, there's children in that country, right? Not everyone can pick up a gun, even if they'd like to, and go out there and fight. But those people, they still have to have something to stay strong, something to keep them strong, to believe in. They have to have a symbol of hope, of strength. Because without hope, you're dead. You're dead. You have to have hope. You have to have belief that there will be that it will change. You have to have a belief that there will be tomorrow. You have to have a belief that you will be able to have life as you deserve to have it, as you work to have it, as you pray to have it. You have to have hope. Oleksandr Usyk gave those people who can't pick up a gun, and the ones that can pick one up, but the ones that can in particular, he gave them hope. That was what he gives them. That's the weapon he gives them. The weapon of belief. That you're a strong people. You're a resilient people. You're a proud people. That you will not and we will not be defeated. And when that man is the heavyweight, that man from your country is the unified heavyweight champion of the world, that allows the people to say, I have hope. We will not be conquered. I have hope. And that was, when you add that onto that night, first of all, Usyk, I know a lot of people are going to be asking this question, so I'm going to answer it without you even asking it, because I know it's out there. Forget about who he fights next. It's supposed to be a rematch. I'll tell you one thing. I can't believe that it's going to happen in October. After what these men have been through physically and emotionally, and not just in the normal realm of a great fight, big fight, but they were in basically 3 camps consecutively, because the fight was supposed to happen once. It didn't happen. The Tyson Fury, something happened. He got hurt. Then he got cut. That was the second one. So they went through 3 camps. 3 camps away from their families. I doubt that in 5 months, whatever October is, right? I doubt that they can be physically and, more importantly, emotionally ready to do this again. I can't believe it. That's what they're talking about. That's the date that's on the contract. But, contracts, only as good as the ink that is on the paper, and that ink can suddenly be crossed out or erased or whatever, or changed. So I can't believe. But that's not the question that you people are asking. Where does Oleksandr Usyk fit now in the scheme of the greatest of all time? I'm going to tell you this. There's great ones, let's not forget. There's great ones in this great history of this great sport that's been around so long. There's a history of people, like I said earlier, like Joe Louis and Jack Johnson and Rocky Marciano and Muhammad Ali and George Foreman. And it just, you could just go on and on. Larry Holmes, who was there, who I flew home with me, and my son flew home with him and his beautiful wife, Diane, and Tyrone, his brother-in-law. But, so you could go on and on. Usyk belongs on that list. He has put himself on that list as one of the greatest winners, period, of any generation. Period. Any weight class. Period. In the sport of boxing. He has earned the right to be on that list. And I want to give credit to Terence Crawford. You know, he's a pretty quiet guy. You know, he doesn't talk a lot. I think he's number one pound for pound. I have Inoue number two pound for pound. And Usyk was, you know, up there. But I thought those were the guys. I have moved Usyk. ESPN people called me this morning and said, Teddy, do you want to update your pound-for-pound list? I said, yeah, I do. I feel like I have to. Any changes? Yeah, I have a change. What is it? I want Usyk number one. And I got to give credit to Crawford, who I had number one. Crawford, I didn't know this at the time. My son told me, because I don't read the internet with all you crazy people out there, you know, that do the internet stuff, that know how to read all that. I don't even know how to turn the thing on. If I want to see something, hey, I got to call my wife or could you turn this on? Could you look up something for me? Because I don't know how to do it. But my son said, Dad, Crawford came out today, I guess it was today or yesterday, and said that Usyk should be ahead of him, number one. Wow, that is a classy move by Crawford. That is a classy thing to say. And I obviously I agree with him, because that's what I did. I think he earned the right to be on the list of greatest of all time. One of the greatest winners of all time. And one of the greatest, I've said this before, to me great fighters are like voyagers. They're like people that go around the world and explore. They're like great explorers, because they explore new areas. For all of us, where we can all kind of see that it's a new area, not only for them, but possibly for us to go. You know, they're like what Usyk did and what these great fighters do when they do it. And Fury has done it. Where he came back after being hit with that lightning bolt of a right hand by a great puncher in Wilder. A great right hand puncher. I mean, a really great right hand puncher. And he's laying there like he got shot by like an M16. And he's laying there not moving. Then about 8, he gets up. You know, and just and he went to another place. And because of getting up on that night is the reason why he was here the other night. Without making that choice to get up, he ain't there the other night. Because as I say, and a lot of people I know out there, when they do their talks and their motivational stuff, they use a lot of the things that I say. But I say all the time, we are about the choices we make in life. We don't think about it at the moment. You know, we don't think about it at the moment, and sometimes we'll make a choice that later on maybe we wish we didn't make, but it's about the choices we make. We must always remember that choice that you make, that will stay with you and define you for the rest of your life. And he made a choice to get up. He could have easily made a choice to just lay there, to just stay there a little longer, and then, you know, they would have said, you gave it a good try, whatever. But he made a choice to get up. And Usyk made a choice to go further. And when I talk about they are like, you know, are great discoverers. the people that go out there and discover new places. If that guy, you remember, you learned it in school. What was that guy's name? Columbus? If he doesn't keep sailing, we don't know that the earth is not flat. But he kept sailing. And then he comes back and says, hey, you could go further. We don't have to stop at that island over there. That probably now would probably have a Starbucks on it, right? But we don't have to stop over there. We can keep going. There's further to. That's what the great ones teach us. That's what Usyk taught us. Yeah, he gave hope to his country. That's the greatest thing in the world. But he also taught all of us that the world's not flat. You can keep going. Sometimes we forget in our own little domains, in our own little ways, we forget that the world's not flat. That we say, okay, that's as far as we could go. And whatever it is that we're doing, that's why. Because that's what someone else said, because that's what usually happens, because that's what they did, because that's what it feels like. Like that's enough. Who said it's enough? Who said it enough? These great discoverers would not have discovered those things if they said it was enough. They kept going. And to me, that is the greatest gift that Usyk gives us. All of us. And people like him. And Fury, like I said. You can go further. You can go further. You can always go further. And he reminds us of that. He teaches us that. The sport is better now because of the other night. The good news is we have one heavyweight champ of the world, and his name's not that hard to pronounce. Even Teddy Atlas might get it right. Usyk. 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 There's a power to that. There's a power to anybody who's been through what he went through and came out on the other side. The right side. There's a power. We can all feel that power. The only bad news to it, and I hate to end on a sour note, the only bad news is, as great as it is for this sport and for all you fans out there, it's probably only going to last a little while before the people that are not great, the administrators of the sport, the fighters are great. The sport itself is great. If you leave it the hell alone, the fighters are special. But the administrators, the sanctioning bodies, the people that make money on it and have different agendas and obviously, different loyalties because of those agendas, it will be a matter of a short period of time. Mark this down, Ken. Mark this down. I'm going to say maybe 2 weeks before everything that was done, that it took 25 years to do, to get one heavyweight champion in this sport, took 25 years to do. Mark down how many days or weeks it takes for the sanctioning organizations to start their striptease move, to start stripping Usyk of titles and breaking it up again. Why? You don't have to be the Mason Kreskin to figure that one out, because the more champs, the more sanctioning fees. So that's the only thing. And I'm sorry, I don't want to rain on your parade, be a party pooper. Enjoy it. People out there, enjoy it. Enjoy it while you can, because it ain't going to be long. Unfortunately, it ain't going to be long. I'm going to give it 2 weeks, Ken. Yeah, I wonder what Vegas is going to give it.
2 weeks. They've already announced that Hrgovic is fighting someone else for one of the titles. They expect him to be stripped within days.
Okay, so 2 days. I meant to say 2 days. Can I be
clowns.
A little coy?
Literally clowns.
25 years.
They're clowns.
And in 24 hours, they start stripping.
Yep. Well, big week for the Ukrainians. That was the Denis Berinchyk becomes the third Ukrainian to capture a legitimate world title in the last 7 days.
I want to say one other thing. Other thing. I want to give credit to Fury. I know people are knocking him, people at the UK. I want to give him credit one more thing. I said it already. He didn't only go and survive, which was extraordinary, but he did everything tooth and nail to try to win that fight, the 10th and 11th and 12th. 10th he was recovering. But here's where I'm confused, Ken, because he took a lot of hits for this in the media, from what I understand. And I get it. You say things, you pay a price for what you say. Otherwise, you shouldn't say them. But again, I go by what he does when it really matters. And what he did was pretty extraordinary, the way he fought back. But he made a comment after the post-fight, and your emotions are running, your adrenaline's running. It's always tough when these guys have to go in the post-fight and talk after a fight. But he said, if I knew I was behind on the scorecards, I guess he implied, or he said, if my corner had told me, but whatever. He said, if I knew I was behind on the scorecards, I would have went after him instead of just trying to, box or survive, whatever. I would have went after him the last couple rounds. But you did. See, that's the thing that confused me. I don't know if he even realized it because, the way he was hurt, he was concussed. You're concussed. You are concussed when you get dropped the way he was and banged around all around the ring. I know he didn't go down, but he might as well have in that 9th round. So he might not have even known it, but he did what he does. He did what champions do. He didn't just survive, as he implied. He tried to win. He went after it in that 11th and 12th round. So that's why I just want to say that. I was surprised when he said, well, if I knew I was behind, I would have went after it instead of just, no, you did go after it. And I'm not implying that you're lying, because I don't think you even realize what you did at that point, the state of mind you were in, and the physical state you were in. But you did go after it. You didn't just survive, Tyson. You didn't just mail it in. You've never done that. You didn't mail it in when your life was on the line either. So don't be having people think that you didn't go after it. I watched it. You went after it. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Filip Hrgovic is going to fight Daniel Dubois, most likely for the IBF title on June 1st. So it's just a matter of time before they announce that that's the title fight, because he's the mandatory challenger. But yeah, big week for the Ukrainians. Third title captured by the Ukrainians. Denis Berinchyk upsets Emanuel Navarrete. That was an awesome fight. I loved every second of it. He gets the unanimous decision. I know you've had a chance to watch it. What'd you think of the performance?
Here's what it was. There were flashes. There was firefights. It was kind of like those days when you get pockets of rain where, wow, you get torrid rain, and then it stops. And then all of a sudden, bang, you get a spurt of rain again, and then it stops. That's what this fight was. You definitely had your own firefights back and forth, but then in between, breaking up the firefights, stopping the rain. The wind came along and blew the clouds away for a little while where the rain stopped. And what that was the ugly part of the fight, the sloppy part of the fight, where there was clinching, where there was falling in because of the style of Navarrete for the most part. So you had some of the fight where I could see some people could say there was some spots where it disconnected, where the music stopped, where there was a scratch in the record, where you're hearing a nice, beautiful song. Where there's a scratch in I forgot. People don't listen to records no more. I'm sorry. What the hell? They must be saying, this guy, what is this guy from like the 18th century or something? This guy from Back in the Future in that movie where they actually have record players again. But when we had records, you get a scratch in the record, it would screw up the whole song. There was scratch in the record of the fight where there was great action. and then all of a sudden falling in, clinching, grabbing. Navarrete, I love him. He's got a heart as big as outside. I think this was the 4th title he was moving up to try to win. He's a 3-division champion, 3-time champion, whatever. He was moving up another division to fight the undefeated 18-0 Berinchyk. Now he's 19-0. Berinchyk was a guy that he was the underdog, but no shock that he would win. He could win this fight. This is a guy who had a great amateur background. This is a guy who came up in the amateurs with Lomachenko, with Usyk, with Vosik. He came up with all of these guys fighting. This is a guy who had the bloodlines. He had the pedigree, and this was going to be his one shot. He's 36 years old, and he was not a guy to sleep on. Navarrete is a tough guy, can punch pretty good, but he moved up another weight class. Yeah, it's hard to carry the power that many weight classes. He's tall, he's wiry, but he's awkward as hell. He could get sloppy as hell in spots, but he's a game as they come. He never stops chucking leather. The problem with his leather, it could be from left field, from right field, from center field. I mean, he's throwing everything but the kitchen sink at you, but he's throwing them from all angles, and he's throwing them wide. And he misses a lot. He'll fall in, he'll throw from too far away, and he did it with the wrong guy. It was a close fight. It was a split decision. I think it went the right way. But it was a tough, contested fight with like I said, with clinching in between, with some of that sloppiness because of the styles. Berinchyk had the right fight plan. He's technically more solid, like Usyk with Fury. He's technically more solid. His punches are shorter. They're more concise. They're straighter. He was punching inside the wide punches. When Navarrete came at him, he was counter-punching. Navarrete goes straight back. When he goes straight back, he went with him. Navarrete, sometimes his legs aren't in position. He's off balance. He caught him going back. Basically, he caught him coming. He caught him going. He punched with him sometimes in spots. Other times, Berinchyk, who's really solid. He's not a puncher, but he's really solid. He switches from southpaw to orthodox. But every once in a while, he'd move off to the side, keep Navarrete off balance, didn't let him get started because Navarrete likes to get ahead of steam going. And when he gets ahead of steam going, he gets going. He kept him off balance. Like I said, he picked his spots. He counter-punched in spots. He followed him in spots. Navarrete had his moments where he was able to catch Berinchyk going straight back in spots. Navarrete never let up, never stopped punching, but Berinchyk matched him. He was a little smarter, definitely better technically, and that was the difference. That's what allowed him. Navarrete might have even thrown more punches, but Berinchyk was able to throw the cleaner punches or land the cleaner punches because his form, he took advantage of the wide punches for the most part of Navarrete, and it was it was entertaining. I mean, Navarrete's always entertaining, by the way. I want to mention also that because I just got back to Staten Island, obviously from Saudi Arabia, and there's a guy out here. There's people that do good things in the sport, and there's a guy here on Staten Island, Richie Lamb. He's a former fighter, and he runs a gym here on Staten Island. It's called the Hard Knocks. I think it's called the Staten Island Hard Knocks Gym, and he's teaching kids obviously how to box, but really more than that, and what the sport really is when it's done right by the right people. He's teaching them the tools they're going to need to be better people. You know, the discipline, the ability to be reliable, the confidence, you know, the self-control. You know, yeah, they're doing good in the ring. There's no doubt about it. But with everything going on in our society, you need people like that. You need people that are doing things like that. And he's doing his part. I don't know how many champions he's going to wind up with because he is teaching them the right way and he is passionate about it. But I know that we're going to wind up with better people. And that's I think that's the name of the game. So I just wanted to call that out there. As far as the Berinchyk, I'm happy for anybody who can put it on the line and win a title, or even fight for a title to get to that place. But I'm very happy for the Ukrainian people, especially this week, that they got not one, not two, but three champions. What a beautiful thing. They got 3 world champions in 1 week. And Berinchyk was the third one. Of course, the second one we talked about, or the first one to do it, we talked about it last week. The great Lomachenko. And he is one of the great fighters of our time. So go ahead, Ken. There was a few other fights, too, on the undercard.
Next up in the 7th round, the German heavyweight Agit Kabayel upsets the Cuban Frank Sanchez to disrupt his unbeaten career. And I said to you, when I saw the fight announced, I know you had been on Kabayel, but when I saw Frank Sanchez coming in undefeated, I was like, Kabayel actually looks like he might be scared here. Well, he was the opposite of scared. He beat the brakes off of Frank Sanchez and stops him. How'd you like it?
Before you think anything, always call and check with me. Always. Always. Because I had touted him. You're right.
Yeah.
I had touted him a couple months ago. I had seen him in Saudi Arabia. The last time I was there, he fought.
He was on the Joshua and Ngannou undercard. Yeah,
he broke down an undefeated heavyweight, a big monster of a guy. That's right. I was very impressed. I was beyond impressed. And I saw him. I took a picture with him, his trainer. Really good people. Good, terrific people. And I told him the night before the fight, you're going to win. He was the underdog. He was a pretty decent underdog. And I said, you're going to win this fight. And I was so impressed the first time I saw him. I was impressed because he's technically solid, but there's something special about this kid. There's really something. First of all, he's got good instincts. He's a determined kid. You can see he's committed to the sport. He's committed to be world champion. He's got the belief, but he's a kid that didn't have a million amateur fights. From what I understand, he only had a handful of amateur fights, 20, which is really nothing in today's day and age, 20, 25. Well, he had some kickboxing fights, I guess, before that. But he's a guy that he brings pressure, but smart pressure. Like I said, he's got good instincts. His technique is solid. What I saw in a fight a few months ago was he fought a big monstrous of a guy that had flaws, but the guy could punch. And the guy could be intimidating to some guys because he was so big. And he wasn't intimidated. Pros should never be intimidated. But nobody, some people do. Their emotions do get in the way of their physical skills and do stop them from performing the way that they're capable of performing. I saw that this kid controlled his emotions. He did what he had to do with the big monster on the outside, took advantage, picked him apart a little bit, and then what did he do? He went into the lion's den. He went into a place where most people would have said, no, don't go in there, because the guy's big and strong. You're giving him a chance to use that physicality inside. He understood that not only could he go in there and be safe because he knew what he was doing, he was calm, but that's how he would get rid of the guy faster, by going right into the lion's cage and freaking killing the lion. And that's what he did. And I saw that, and then when I found out they made the fight with the undefeated Frank Sanchez, they were both 24-0. I said, Kabayel's winning this fight. And I said, matter of fact, I think he's going to stop him. I think he's going to stop him from what I saw in that other fight. And sure enough, he broke him down systematically. He's a player now. It was a title eliminator, so he's there. But and his manager does a good job, and his trainer. He systematically broke him down. The first round wasn't a good round for him. I think he lost the first round because he was very tight. But then he got into the fight and he started relaxing. And he had a plan. He was going to keep pressure, but he had to avoid the uppercut because, as you said, Sanchez is a big guy. He was looking to time him with the uppercut coming in. And So he had the ability to avoid the big shots. He had the ability to move his head enough, step out, whatever he had to do at the right time not to get hit with the big shots. But he kept the pressure on, he kept going to the body, and he put together nice combinations. Nice 3-4 punch combinations, head, body, body, head, really well-placed punches. And he consistently kept the pressure and kept banging to the body. And finally, I think it was the 7th round, he finally got to him. Let me see what round it was. I think it was the 7th round. Anyway, he finally got to him. He dropped him twice with body shots. 7th round. He dropped him twice with body shots and got the stoppage. So really nice work for a nice guy. And before you go to the next, you know what? Go to the next one. What's the next one on the card?
Anthony Cacace gets a junior lightweight IBF title over Joe Cordina. Gets a stoppage in the 8th round. I know you saw that one. Curious to hear what your thoughts are.
Anthony Cacace, he's 22-1. Joe Cordina, 17-1. Again, when people get my attention in 2 ways, I got to make sure I give them their props. 2 ways. One, in the ring, with how they perform. And 2, in the way they present themselves and carry themselves as a person, as a human being. I wound up getting to meet and took a picture with Anthony Cacace, and just I'm very happy for him. Just a good kid. He had nice people around him. A really good kid. His promoter, one of the best promoters. See, another thing that Turki Al-Ashik has done well, he's hooked himself up with 2 basic promoters for the most part. Frank Warren and Eddie Hearns, and they're probably the 2 best promoters. I know they're both over across the pond, so probably a lot of the people that I love, and they love us too. I know that. We're going to eat crumpets together. You know, we're going to have a spot of tea together anytime I'm over there, and they're welcome over here. I would love to see them. And we go back and forth, and we kid with each other, but there's mutual love, at least from us to them. I know that. And I appreciate them. The English are great, great fans. But these 2 promoters are from across the pond, so people will probably be surprised. Gee, Ted, I'm surprised that you'd be sending that kind of love and compliments to 2 English promoters. Hey, I send it wherever I think it should be freaking sent. And they do a good job. They do a good job. And Frank Warren's been around a long time. And he is one of the smartest men in boxing. And him and Hearns, it was smart for Al-Ashik, for Turki Al-Ashik, really to hook up with them. And he's got Anthony Cacace, Frank Warren. And he won the IBF junior lightweight title over the champion Joe Cordina, who was 17-0. It was a good fight. I mean, this Anthony Cacace, the only thing I could say from his performance, he was possessed. It's like he knew at this point in his life that this was his shot. You know, he's now 22-1, I said, right? This was his shot. And he fought like a guy that was not going to leave that arena without the belt. I mean, it was back and forth. They both had their moments. And Cordina's terrific too. And every time Cordina had his moment, Cacace came back and stole it back. And then, you know, kind of like a card game, you know, he met him and then he raised him one. You know, he saw him, okay, I see that, and I'll raise you this. And he just kept pushing the pedal to the metal. And he threw everything with bad intentions. What I loved about the fight was it was all, for the most part, it was in tight quarters. It was a terrific fight. It really was. Cordina showed unbelievable heart because he had been down a round before that, down, really hurt. He came back. Tremendous fight, back and forth, until finally Cacace took over. So anyway, it was congratulations to him. He's got the IBF junior lightweight title. I hope he does. I hope he makes the most of it. I'm sure they will, especially with Frank Warren in his corner, because he's not. I don't have his age in front of me, I don't think, but he's not a spring chicken. I'm not saying he's old, but I think he's in the area of 35, 36. So I'd love to see a guy like that, make hay while the sun is shining.
Yeah. Well, speaking of age, young heavyweight, only 19 years old, Moses Itauma gets rid of Ilja Mezencev early in the second round. Incredible.
No, first round, wasn't it? Tell me if I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong.
I have it here as second round, but I have TKO in their second round. That's what I thought it was, but
all right, I thought it was first, but maybe no. Let me think for a second. Maybe you're right. Maybe it was second round. You're probably right. It was second round. Early second round, I guess, right? 30 seconds? All right. Yeah, so
he beats the German, Ilja Mezencev. But, man, this good-looking prospect. How'd you like it?
Listen, 19 years old. That's important to say. Frank Warren also has him. I think Frank Warren might have a future heavyweight champ on his hands. It's a long way to go. He hasn't fought anyone yet. Let's say that right away. But, this is a guy that, from what I understand and what Frank talks about him, this is a guy who is 15. Like these special fighters that come along that start young. What do you hear? There's great stories about them. They were sparring top fighters when they were 15, 14, 16. He's one of those where he was in the ring with top fighters when he was 15 years old. He was fighting guys that were 10-0 as a pro, that were 10 years older than him, and he was doing a job on them. He's one of those guys. He was obviously a very good amateur. He's 9-0, I believe, with 7 knockouts. What I was impressed, he can punch. Yeah, he's a heavyweight. Yeah, he's 19 years old. The future is bright. But he's smart. Yeah, he's technically well schooled. And he's got Ben Davidson, who I think is one of the better trainers out there. He's got Ben Davidson now in his corner. I think Davidson just started working with him. I don't think he was with him for the first 8 fights. I think he was with him the first time in this fight. I think it's going to be good for him. I think it's going to only help him. And he's a counterpuncher. That's what I was implying when I said he's smart. He didn't just go out there and blast the guy out there because he was waiting to get blasted out. He went out there and he made the guy miss, and he caught the guy. He set the guy up. He set traps. He did it the right way. He did it the way that a good fighter should do it or would do it. And I was impressed with that. Go ahead. The next one. I think we got one more, Ken.
Yeah, last fight. Jai Opetaia picks up a world title. Beats Mairis Briedis in their second fight, a rematch. One-sided on the scorecards, 12-round decision. And like I said, picks up a world title there. I think he got the IBF World Cruiser title. How'd you like that one?
Yeah, I think it was for a vacant cruiserweight title. But listen, this was a rematch from 2 years ago when Opetaia won a decision, but he got his jaw broke. Yep. You know what? That's tough. You go into a fight with a guy that you went the distance with and he broke your jaw. I think there was some ghost in his attic that he had to get rid of. That was very important for Opetaia. Even though he won the first fight, it was very important for him. And I think he over pushed in one area. I think he tried for the knockout too much. He kept promising. I was watching him during the week. He looks like a good kid. He kept promising that he was going to get a knockout, and he was looking for one punch. He dominated the first half, the first 3 quarters. The first 3 quarters of the fight, he dominated. It was a whitewash. He won every round. But he was throwing too many he's better than that. He was throwing too many one punches at a time. Big punches, falling in every once in a while, missing, smothering himself once in a while, landing once in a while too, but definitely winning every round, but not the performance I expected from him. Again, I think that it meant too much for him in that kind of way. I think he was trying to sort of prove something to himself, maybe to his fans, that he was, he's the best cruiserweight in the world. Maybe he wanted to show that, and he was going to knock this guy out. Briedis doesn't get knocked out. He's one of those experienced, tough guys. He's never been stopped. He's a tough son of a gun. He's very experienced. And as Opetaia was controlling, I would almost say dominating the fight, something happens when you're going swinging for the fences. When you're swinging for the fences, instead of setting it up with a jab, instead of setting it up with a feint, instead of setting it up with a counterpunch, instead of setting it up with a trap, when you're just swinging for the fences, it's kind of like baseball. When you swing for the fences, you strike out. Yeah, you're looking for a home run, but you strike out more often than you hit a home run. Same thing in boxing. For those young boxers out there that are listening, same thing. You baseball player, you don't want to swing with the fences. You want to have the proper approach to go up to bat, to do the things you're taught to do. If it comes as a home run, it comes. Same thing in boxing. You don't go out there looking for the home run. You don't go out there looking for the knockout. You set it up. You let it come the right way. Sure enough, he's swinging for the fences. I said to my son, we're sitting ringside next to the great Roberto Duran. And we're sitting there, and me and Roberto were talking about the fight. I said, this guy's looking for one punch at a time. He's a good fighter. He's better than this. But, he just keeps looking for one punch against a really experienced guy. You never know. Sure enough, I can't remember what round it was, but maybe 3 rounds to go, 4 rounds to go, whatever it is. Sure enough, he gets caught. He gets hurt. Now, something did happen that changed the course of the fight a little bit. They had a head clash. I think that wasn't talked about enough in a Fury fight, and it wasn't a head clash. It was a punch that hurt the nose of Fury. When he got hurt, his nose got hurt, and you saw him. He touched his nose. It affected him. I thought it impacted the flow, the rhythm of the fight a little bit. Well, the same thing happened here, but with a headbutt, and sometimes those things happen where Opetaia got hit with the head of Briedis, and it might have broke his nose. I don't know afterwards if they said it was broke, but it looked like it might have broke his nose. It changed the flow of the fight. He was way ahead. He still was winning the fight, but it just changed the flow. And then, like I said, he's looking for the one shot, and Briedis used his experience. He hurts him. I forget what round it was, but it was late in the fight. He hurts him, and now all of a sudden Opetaia's got a fight on his hands. So it was all one-sided, like you implied before. But then down the stretch, here comes Briedis. Here he comes, coming down the stretch like a horse in a Kentucky Derby, coming down to steal it. And he didn't quite get there. He didn't quite get to the finish line to steal it. To grab it, because Opetaia survived and then pulled himself together enough to win another round or so and, do what he had to do to survive after having a big lead. But Briedis did hurt him. He did come on. He did show that experience, that toughness, and he came on and made it interesting the last 3 rounds, the last 3 or 4 rounds. But Opetaia, as you said, won easily on the scorecards because he had built up a nice, comfortable lead. One other thing, I met a lot of people out there. Obviously, there's a lot of people out there in the boxing world and outside the boxing world, too. I met the actor Lee Shriver, and remember that TV show he had, Ray Donovan? He's a good actor. Yeah, he's really good. Good guy, by the way. Real good boxing fan. And anyway, I was there. It's all, we put it up. My son posted all the stuff. Rob posted some stuff. So we were doing the social media stuff that you post, all those kind of things that you put up and everything. But another person that I met out there was a woman fighter named Raven Chapman. She's 8-0. She's a featherweight. She's from the UK, and I think she's going to be a future world champion. I met her and her father, but what has really invoked me to speak about her, the impression the two of them made on me. They just impressed me as the people they are. And again, you need a reminder once in a while. You know, I went halfway across the world, met the Saudi people, and was reminded there's good people everywhere. Never close your mind and say, well, this is what I think I know about somebody. No. Find out what you know. That's what you know. Find out what the hell you know before you go by what a book told you, what a newspaper article, what somebody said, what you thought you thought. Forget all that. I went halfway across the world and I found out that there's people there that are loving, caring people, respectful people, and they showed that to me and my son. And like I said before, when I got hurt out there, that they came and said, we're going to help you. We'll keep you here. We'll take care of it. We don't want you to go home injured. You know, it could be dangerous. You could get a blood clot, could travel from your leg because I tore my MCL and ACL. But I got home. Thank God I was able to get home and get to surgery. But what I learned there, it was worth getting a bad knee. I didn't want to get a bad knee. It's going to take 9 months to get this thing fixed. And I'm about 6 weeks into it. And I'm thankful that I have good people helping me. But I looked at the other side, the silver lining in the gray cloud. I was thankful that I got to meet these people and the kids in the gym and the care, how respectful, how they made me and my son feel. That each one of these kids came up to us and they shook my hand, they thanked me for coming. When I went there back to the gym, the first thing they said, how is your knee? How is your family? Are you okay? I was, and I said to my son, I said, this tells you all you need to know beyond just these kids, to know about the way they're brought up, about the environment they live in, about their parents. They're learning this from their parents. It's not just in the Saudi air because it happens to be hot over there. They're learning it. They're being taught this. And these are things that sometimes we live in our own little realm that we don't go beyond that realm. And we don't realize that we get down. I get down. I look around. I see the world upside down sometimes. I say, what the hell? People don't care about nobody. People have no respect for things anymore. And then you get reminded, oh, no, Teddy. There's plenty of people that have respect. There's plenty of people that care about other people. You just have to allow yourself to see it. And I've been in boxing my whole life. I saw again that there are plenty of people, there's some that give the sport a bad name, no doubt about it. But there's more that give it a good name. There's more of them that know how to fight in the ring and how to conduct themselves and present themselves and carry themselves outside the ring. And Raven Chapman is one of them. She was a terrific young lady. We talked. She came over to me. She watches the podcast. And her father, you can see why she's so terrific. Again, like I was talking about the kids in the gym. They learned it somewhere. Their parents have some responsibility for that. And obviously when you meet the father, you realize that he's got a lot of responsibility or a lot to do with the young woman that I'm talking about in such bright ways, in such good ways, the way that she conducts herself, that she learned it somewhere. And her father was part of where she learned it. But she's a terrific fighter. I got to look at some tape on her. She's a terrific, I think she's going to be a future world champion. But more importantly, she's already on her road to being a champion in the most important way, the way that she carries herself as a human being. She makes the world a little bit better. All good people make the world a little bit better. So anyway, I'm going to keep tracks on her. I'm going to watch. I know she's got a big fight coming up pretty soon, so I'm going to try to follow that. I also know that we have an interview coming up with undefeated fighter we did that should be coming up pretty soon that we'll have on one of our episodes, right?
Yeah, Jordan Panthen, great interview, great conversation, smart young guy into the history of the sport. We'll keep an eye on him for sure too, Jordan and Raven. Great night for boxing, incredible event. Those guys put on a really good event over there, and looking forward to it. I know they're talking about now maybe doing a Terence Crawford and Canelo fight, possibly in the U.S. in the late fall, early winter. So that'll be interesting to see what happens there.
Canelo's, but Crawford's got to fight first before that for the junior middleweight title against the undefeated. Trying to remember his name that he's fighting.
Israel Madrimov.
Yeah, he's fighting him. I know Madrimov. I watched him. Yeah, that's not a walk in the park for anybody, but I believe Crawford will beat him. But the interesting thing here is Crawford, of course, is moving up another weight class. This is a guy who started off at junior lightweight, lightweight, junior welterweight. He'll be going up to his fifth class for a fifth title now, fifth weight class title. So he is moving up, but Madrimov is solid.
This fight says it's at super welter. And the Errol Spence
junior
fight
middle.
Welter,
that's junior middle, Ken.
Yep.
Yeah, it's junior middle. Super middle. Yeah, one.
Yeah, no, sorry. I thought that he had listed. I thought he had fought there once. I was just looking at the notes. Yeah, all good. I wouldn't bet against Crawford. He's a friggin' gamer. That guy just shows up. He's a mean bastard, too.
The only thing that beats Crawford is Father Time eventually beats everybody. You know, but he's not a guy, even though he's getting up there a little bit, he's not used up. He's not a guy that's got so many miles on his odometer.
Has he ever been knocked down?
Not that I know of, no.
I don't think he has either.
He got wobbled, believe it or not. He got wobbled one of his fights coming up. It might have been his first title or definitely one of his first big fights.
But when you think about it in those terms, right, it's almost unrealistic to think you're in there with the best fighters in the world and you never get punched. I mean, I almost have more respect to say, like, yeah, he got wobbled, he got tested, and he walked right through the fire. You know, like Canelo was wobbled against, the younger Benavidez? Someone wobbled him, and you just like, I don't know, I think it adds a level of legitimacy to say, like, what happens when he does get clipped?
Canelo's got a great chin. Canelo's got he's got incredible. A really, really all-time tremendous, dependable, solid granite chin. He really does.
Yeah.
But I think Crawford, again, there's only two things that could possibly beat him. Father Time and moving up too many weight classes. He does have a good frame, a good skeleton to move up, to put the weight on, and he does carry power up in weight so far, which is really good. But he separates himself from everybody because of this, the mind.
Yeah.
His talent is exceptional. It stands alone. But his timing. Obviously, he's got good speed. He's got power. He's technically his trainers do a great job. He's technically solid. He's adaptable. You know, he's got so many different things that he can bring to the table that he can do. He can control range. He can go in. He can go in the trenches when he has to. He can use his legs when he has to. All of that, but mentally, he's a junkyard dog. His personality. Sure. I mean, he's a junkyard. He's gonna get you. He is a nasty guy in that ring. I don't mean dirty. I mean nasty in a way that he ain't letting you get out of there. He ain't letting you beat him. He is a nasty guy. There's no friends in there. You know, there's no prisoners taken when he's in that ring. Sugar Ray Leonard was that way when he was at his best. He was He was one of those pit bull type mentalities. But the thing with Crawford is that everything slows down for him. Where everything's going real fast for everyone else, for him it goes slow. It all slows down, and he sees things that others don't see. And that's why his timing is better than anybody else's. Not only because of quick twitch muscles. Everyone thinks it's because of that it's physical, that boom, his timing is better, he's quicker. No. His timing is better is because he slows everything down, and he can see things a split second before you see it.
I don't think of him as that super athletic Roy Jones type. I see him as more cerebral, and he just seems to always get the job done. He downloads the information, more like in between Loma and Roy Jones, where he doesn't rely purely on athleticism. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, it does.
I think those two guys together, Canelo and Crawford, are both mean. They're like, when they get in the ring, they're mean, and they'll stand in the pocket. They're not afraid to take shots. They're tough. That would be a hell of a fight. I saw you saw Ryan Garcia over there.
Look, I know he's done a lot of crazy things. I know he's going through different things, and he has gone through different things, and he said different things, and he has said things that I don't condone them. But I like the kid. I don't know. I see something that I saw at the beginning, before he ever got to this place. You know, wherever this place is, of making a lot of money, of, you know, where it's hard for a young kid to be able to suddenly be catapulted into these kind of airs of a place, and with all these things that are available to him now, that are thrown at him, that are there, people, you know, doors that are there, opened up for him, all the stuff that's going on. How do you know? Who knows how they would handle it? We all think, oh, I'd handle it better, I'd handle more this way, I'd handle it more that way. But until you're there, you don't really know. And also on top of that, the pressures of a fighter. You know, it's not just the making of the money and getting to that star level where he gets all this attention and all this stuff, but the pressure of the fighter, of what he does to get that fame, to get that money, what he has to go through. He's got to go into a cauldron, into a furnace of doubt, a furnace of danger, of threat, of fear. He's got to deal with that. And it affects people. It impacts people. And again, I'm not making any apologies at all, and I don't condone some of the things that have come out of his mouth. But I met this kid before this stuff all started. And call me what you want. Call me stupid, whatever, gullible. I don't care, because I don't think I'm that. But I saw an innocent kid that, you know, that was just starting. He had talent. He had good looks. He was smart. He had a vision and an idea for the social media stuff. He knew girls loved him. Crossover people loved him because you know, of obvious reasons. But I just touched on good-looking kid, and he would put videos up. He built up like 9 million. I don't know how many he's got now, but he built up like 9 million followers. So he was savvy when it came to the business side of it and everything else. And then, you know, he got to that next place where he made the big money. And then, of course, this fight where he won at that next level. For the first time, really winning at that next level with Devin Haney, who at the time was considered on the top 10 list of pound for pound. I think he was. I think he was on some people's list, if not most people's list. And he wins that fight, and there's controversy all swirling around it with the circumstances of it, and also, of course, with the things that have been said and everything else and leading up to it. And I talked about it. We talked about it. I think that he has things he's got to deal with. I think he's got issues. But when I see him, I see that kid. That's all I can tell you. When I see him, I see that kid. You know, I see that kid when I first met him that called me up and said, "Ted, can I talk to you about, you know, boxing?" And I did. I stood on the phone with him for 45 minutes, an hour, whatever it was.
I agree with you, Teddy. That's the part that's frustrating is seeing some of the decisions he's made. I'm like, you don't have to do that. Like, I
hope he's okay.
I do too, because he is a nice kid. I'm with you. I see all the I see the real kind, innocent kid, but then I see the behavior, and I'm like, dude, what are you doing?
I get it. And listen, I get it if some people see that side, that's the side they go off. I understand that. I'm not trying to defend anything here. I'm just speaking for myself. When you asked me that question,
no, of course, that's why I asked. I know you like him.
That's all.
I think it's important that people understand that he has that side to him too.
Yeah,
he is a nice kid.
I just hope that he's okay, because I do think that he's going through things, obviously, and I just hope at the end of the day he gets to the right place.
Yep. Well, listen, Teddy, thanks for doing this. Fresh off the flight from Saudi Arabia via Egypt. Appreciate you as always. Cameron sends his best wishes. He's excited for the summer. He's coming to Shelter Island late June, early July. He wants to come into the city and train with you for a couple of days.
Yeah, we'll get it done.
I told him maybe Teddy will let you go stay at his house. You can go stay with him for a couple of days and train.
He's welcome to stay here anytime. Anytime.
I told him that.
He just can't come here with that haircut. But other than that, he can come here anytime. I'm only kidding. I love him. He's got a mohawk for the people out there that are wondering what I'm talking about. He's a beautiful young boy. He's got a mohawk, which if I was that age, I'd probably have a mohawk too. And especially with the summer coming up. And on top of it, he's a fighter.
I told him, yo, if you get that mohawk, you should expect that the kids at jiu-jitsu and wrestling, they're going to want to beat the crap out of you. They want to beat up the punk who has the guts to show up here with the mohawk. True. And he said, I don't care. Let him try. So I was like, all right, it's up to you. I'll do it. But just recognize, like, some people are going to want to punch you in your face. And he was like, let them try.
No, you put a target on yourself. But he's got the confidence. He's got the attitude.
That's right. The other kids didn't want anything to do with that. They were like, just shave my hair off. But Cameron was like, no, I want it. So,
it reminds me of his story. I used to read a lot, and I read these short stories, boxing short stories. It was called The Blue Ribbon, I believe. Great short story, one of the great writers. I don't know if he was mostly a boxing writer, but it was a collection of short stories. I read it 30 years ago, maybe more, 40 years, whatever. And I was in one of my training camps, and I read it. And it was a magnificent book. And it was about a kid who became a fighter. And when he was a kid, he was a laid-back kid, almost introverted. And the mother, that was the unique part of this story, what made it such a great book. The mother was the one who wanted him to be a fighter. There was no father. So for obvious reasons, she was trying to toughen him up. She was whatever. But it was more than that. She wanted him to be a fighter. So he wasn't inclined, to completely follow in the same kind of way that his mother wanted him to be, with that temperament. So the mother came up with different training systems and ideas to mold him into a fighter and to get him to. So she developed him, and then she wanted him to start having fights outside. And so basically she needed to start to lobby for sparring partners. But so her way of doing it was to take this kid, this beautiful kid like your son, take this kid who was not that kid. He was not prone to be out there starting fights. And what did she do? She made him wear a blue ribbon to school. And when he wore the blue ribbon to school, she knew what would happen. Kids would start picking on him. Kids would come after him. And he got his experience. He got his sparring. Every day he had to go to school with a blue ribbon was at least 2 sparring sessions. At least 2 or 3 fights on his record. And it got to the point where nobody wanted to fight the kid with the blue ribbon.
Nice.
So So if you see a kid with a mohawk, leave him alone.
Well, Teddy, like I said, thanks for doing this. Appreciate you guys. If you're watching, please subscribe on YouTube. We appreciate you guys. Leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It's a massive help for us. And we'll be back next week with all the action per usual. Thanks for being with us. Thank you, Teddy. Have a great week, everybody. Boom.